Hi, my name's Ashley.
I'm Stephen.
And we directed or co-directed the film A Momentary Lapse for this year's, or the 2022 Digi60 Film Festival.
And we won Best Director and we're top 5 for our film.
So for this year's Digi60, they gave us a theme of escape. So where did the idea for our film come from?
Well, the idea for this one was actually born for last year's Digi when the theme was power. It's a script that I couldn't write for that one, but in kind of hashing out the idea, I wanted to play around with roles in film. Traditionally, the protagonist of the film is going to be somebody you can rely on, somebody who can be a good person. And I wanted to make a film where that wasn't necessarily going to be the case, where you couldn't necessarily trust the protagonist, and kind of explore the idea of a film where there really isn't a good guy. And I kind of got nervous in doing that because the idea that grew out of this was one that had a lot of violence in it and something that I wouldn't necessarily be able to show my grandmother. And when I came to you with the idea, I was kind of worried that you weren't going to like it. So what was your reaction to the theme for this?
Surprisingly enough, I was super excited about it. I remember when you came up to me and you're like, this is the kind of concept I want to do. I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm so excited to do this. I really want to do this. But again, I was a little bit worried because it was the more violent stuff and we had never really done the violent stuff especially for something like Digi, where a lot of viewers are going to be there. We did have to put a warning on our film because of the violence, because there's gore and violence, and all that stuff. But yeah, I was pretty excited about it. A little nervous because, like you said, because of the violence. But yeah, I was pretty excited about doing it.
I think when I first approached you too, you were, I told you about the idea and you wanted to act in the film.
Yes.
But then kind of as this grew, we decided that maybe it would be better to have another actress.
Yeah.
And then that kind of fell through. But in the end, you ended up being both the lead in the film and in co-directing. So what was that experience like?
I remember first talking about it when you were talking about the role and the story, and I was like, oh my God, this is something I would love to act this. And then I think I was in a the mental spot that I wanted to act it last year for Power. And then because things kind of fell through and then this year I was kind of in the mindset of like, I don't know if I want to act this year. I think I just want to direct. So going from originally wanting to act it, and then I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to act it. I want to step back. I want to direct this one. And having our actress get sick 4 days before shooting, we kind of, I spent the first 2 days looking for somebody to replace her. And then you're like, well, looks like you're gonna have to fill in. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. So having to do the whole production and, directing and all that stuff and the behind the scenes of getting everything set up for it, and then acting. I think if it would have been more of a like happy-go-lucky character, it would have been easier to kind of be able to do both things at the same time. But because it was such a distraught, crying, upset, kind of, I had to be in that emotional space to do it. It was really hard. It was, I had to, the fact that I only had a day and a half to learn the whole script, because it was the lead part. And on top of having to go like, okay, I need to get this set up. I need to make sure we have this showing up. And it was really hard to kind of split that. And I really had to rely on you guys to be able to when I was acting, know that I can kind of depend on you guys it looks okay behind camera. I don't have to check it every time. I was able to kind of direct and help direct people of like, okay, try to change this expression, try to say it this way. But I had no idea what it looked like behind camera, which I can normally take a look at. So yeah, having to kind of both mentally trying to direct and go, okay, has this person been in makeup? Has this been shown? Are the props set up? Has this been set up for next shot? Where are we on our shot list? To go like, okay, go cry and pretend you're all unhappy and that you're something happened and you're having to talk to the cop. And I was like, I can't mentally get there right now because I'm thinking of craft and lunch. And I was like, how do I get into that mental spot of having to be able to cry and get upset? But then again, relying on you guys to know that that you're going to help me if I miss something that I normally wouldn't because my head is in one spot, that you guys will be able to kind of help out with that. So that made it a lot easier. I don't think I could have just directed and act. I've also learned that I don't want to do both anymore. If I'm acting, I want to act. If I'm directing, I do not want to act.
Well, I think on that front too, so both of us have kind of a background in acting first and then the experience on both sides of the camera. What impact do you think that has on your directing and how you approach directing?
I think both help each other out. So acting has helped me direct because I have that perspective, and directing has also, what did I just say? Directing helps me to act, and acting helps me to direct as well, because I can, I know how I am as an actor and what kind of feedback I enjoy getting. And then, so when I'm behind the camera, I know that I try to give as much detail as possible and make sure that the actor doesn't know that I'm critiquing them, or that, that take wasn't good because you're not a good actor. It is just, that's not what we're looking for this specific scenario or the specific scene or the specific expression or whatnot. I think it's also helped me pick up on the smaller things that normally, while acting, just in general, as I direct in the back, I can pick up on all the little details that I see because I see what's happening. So I find it's kind of helped me reverse action on both sides. And for this film, I know that we were talking about you struggling with writing it, because originally we were wanting to do it for the previous year. How did you find having to finish that up and working with a second writer?
It was an interesting experience, because typically when we work on a film, the idea kind of grows in my head. And sometimes it pops in fully formed, sometimes it takes a little while to develop, but usually it's my idea, which, I kind of hold close and protect that idea. And with you, I know that I can come to you and say, here's what I'm thinking, and that you're going to tear it apart, but it's always to make the story better. There's no malice ever involved in that. But when you start to bring in someone else, then you kind of have to think, do they see it my way? Do they understand it? And I think we were extremely fortunate with this one, that we were able to work with Mark Templin.
Yeah.
Mark got right from the beginning where we wanted the story to go. And sitting down with Mark and kind of hashing it out helped me find some of the mistakes that I had made. And then he went off and insanely quickly, in the span of a couple of days, came back with a first draft that had pieces that I hadn't even thought about.
Yeah.
And there was so much in there that we were able to take and change in subtle little ways to really tell the story. I think had I not reached out to Mark and had I tried to struggle through this myself, I don't think we would have had the story that we actually put on the screen. So that experience was terrifying.
Yeah.
Letting someone else kind of dictate to my vision and come back and show me what he thought the story was, but at the same time, a very liberating one. Because I knew that even though I was struggling, someone else was going to help, and that we'd eventually get out of this. So.
Yeah. And doing that, did the film come out the way that you had wanted it to or anticipated for it?
When I have an idea for a story, usually it comes in scenes. The opening scene of this film was exactly kind of what I wanted to have in there. And I get an idea of a look and a feel for the film. And typically when we're done, I look at the finished piece and think, well, okay, that's close to what I wanted, but that's the reality of independent filmmaking. We didn't have the money to do what we wanted to do, and the next one will be better. But this was the very first time that in watching the edit, I thought, this is the film. This is the film I wanted to make. And it didn't matter at that point when they had the final edit done. I didn't care what judges were going to think. I didn't care what anyone else was going to think. This was the film that I wanted to make. Yeah. And that was an incredible feeling. That's never happened before. But this was almost exactly what I'd hoped it could be.
Yeah, and I think that was for all three of us too. Like with Ryan, our DOP, I think we all kind of, and like you said, it was the first time, but we all kind of had that feeling of like, wow, I'm proud of this. This is really amazing. This is a really good film.
Yeah. I think on that front, there's always going to be some things that sort of stand out. And I think in our film, if you watch our film, the ending is kind of a plot hole. And realizing after we'd submitted, between submitting and going to see it in theaters, that had I been able to add just one more line in there, I could have fixed a major plot hole. And anytime I see the film now, I'm thinking of that line, one line, if he had only said this, go back and reshoot. But on the whole, I'm very, very happy with what it is that we produced.
So a lot of the storytelling in this film is done with flashbacks. So what made you want to go kind of a non-linear storytelling?
I remember when we were in school, one of our profs, this line from Picasso that says, good artists borrow, great artists steal. So when we make a film, I try to steal something from someone else.
Okay.
And in previous films, I've stolen bits and pieces from Risky Business for one of the films we did. But for this one, I wanted to, not that I think I'm anywhere close to this level, but try to steal something from Tarantino. I really liked the storytelling in Pulp Fiction, where you don't really know what's going on. Bits and pieces are appearing. And, I'm told that in Bolivia, they actually cut the film into a narrative, like a proper narrative, because they thought it was a total mess. So for this one, let's do something where the story doesn't take place from start to finish, where things kind of get filled in and where bits and pieces come in. And, if anybody watching the film sees a bit of Tarantino, I'm honored. But for that, I was really trying to steal from the Tarantino style.
Okay. Nice.
When we were watching this film, in theaters, I think you and I were both as much watching the audience as we were watching the film, and they were reacting at the time that we wanted them to react, and they gasped at the time we wanted them to, and then afterwards we thought this is pretty good. But when they announced us as best director, how did that feel? I
had to take a second, going, wait, was that my name? Because that couldn't have been my name, and and it's just. Like we've been pretty consistent with being able to get the top 5 films of the Filmmakers Festival. So I was really fingers crossed. I was like, this is kind of an out there. There's violence in here. It's not what we typically do. Fingers crossed we can still get the top 5. So when they announced the top 5, I was super excited. I was like, yes, we did. Yes, yeah, awesome. And then when they announced, I thought that was our yes, we got it. And then when they announced Best Director, and they said Ashley and Steven, I was like, wait, what? Did everybody hear that, or is that in my head? And then when you got up, I was like, oh my God, no. I was like, did we literally just win Best Directors? That is crazy. This is awesome. And it was just like, I think I struggled a bit with the being in shock. I remember pushing you in front of the mic going, you got to talk, because I'm trying to process what's going on here. But yeah, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I definitely had a moment of, they made a mistake, but if we get down there fast enough, they can't take it away from us now. So let's go get this. But, I think on that front too, we have learned a lot in a very short time in making films.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get into this, if there's something that they're thinking of doing, what advice would you give them?
Go for it. Have fun. Those 2 things. Go for it and have fun, because it is fun both doing this and making the film just in every aspect, but it's also fun to see your project go from a possible idea, we could possibly make this happen, to actually going through it and making it happen, and to actually seeing the final product of, wow, that we did that. We managed to pull that off. And so it's definitely go for it. And I mean, we started from nothing. We were in school trying to figure things out and going, you know what, let's try to push ourselves a little bit further, and let's try to let's enter a festival with this. I mean, we're nowhere near that kind of skill level, but I mean, it'll be fun to do. So if anybody's wanting to do Digi60 or any a film festival, just go for it and have fun with it. It is an incredible thing, especially when you're sitting at that festival in the audience and on this big screen, you're like, that's my film. Wow, okay, cool. And then, especially with this one, I think because we went so, I don't want to give too much away, but we went so specific into we want to make the audience see something, but also realize something else. And when we were sitting there in the movie theater and watching it, and people giggling when Adam would peek his head out and go, we were like, okay, perfect. They laughed. That's where we wanted them to laugh. And then hearing that gasp when we were at that one spot of okay, things are turning, things are going to go for a big spin. And just hearing the couple rows in front of us go, I was like, yes, that's so cool. To be able to experience that your ideas and that your vision is getting the reactions that you want, and is getting it's cool. It feels like it's bigger than it. Not that it's bigger than it is, but that it is you're watching this in a movie theater on a big screen, and people are reacting to it, and you're like, that's mine. Yeah. We did that. is so worth it.
I think for me, part of this too is that within the context of Digi, you have 60 days to make a film, which it's a comfortable amount of time to make a film in.
It's a great amount of time.
When I was a kid, we used to make films where we take out a camera and act out, improvise crazy scenes. And as a kid, that was okay. And I kind of thought this is something I wanted to do. But in my 20s, I got in my own way. And I thought, if I'm going to make a film, it's got to be Tarantino. It's got to be Hitchcock. There's no point in making a bad film. It's got to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. But within the confines of something like this, there is an incredible liberation that comes from having that looming deadline.
Yeah.
Where you've entered into this, the film is going to be screened. As long as you submit, you're going to get a chance to see your film. And that quest of kind of chasing the perfect film, chasing the perfect story, is why we didn't enter in 2021, but we could have. The script was probably pretty good, but I didn't like it. But with this one, really forcing ourselves to say, in 60 days, I'm going to make a film.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the best film I can do in 60 days. And the first one's not going to be perfect. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like you said, that feeling of going to the theater and thinking, I shot that on a camera that I bought on the limited budget I have, and it looks like a movie. That liberation of getting it done and actually having a film out on the set is incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
And Ottawa is a great city for that too, because you go into the Filmmakers Facebook group and post, I'm making my first movie, I need help. People will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's volunteer, even if they're not,
actors, more experienced people, production assistants, these people will come forward to really help you build this. And I think Digi and the community that's built up around that is incredible for first-time filmmakers. So, if there's an idea out there and you don't know if you want to direct, you don't know if you want to act, you don't know if you want to do this thing, try it. You will probably be very surprised at the end with just how good it actually looks. Absolutely, I agree. And especially like with the Digi kind of aspect for it, we've done the Digi Spring, which was only 3 weeks time frame. We've done a film festival that was only like a 72-hour. You need to write and do the whole thing in 72 hours, which is pure chaos. But with the 60 days, I find it's just like you have enough time to really set your idea in motion and put things together. But it's also a short enough amount of time that it's not like, I'll do it later, I'll figure it out. And it's just, it's a great amount of time of, you have to hit that deadline. So you need to get in gear. You can't just procrastinate through the whole thing. But it's a great amount of, you can actually, you don't have to stress out about, let's go. I got to get this done. I only have such an amount of time. You can actually put your ideas together. You have time to bounce ideas off of other people and search for costumes and your concept. And I know that this time around, we usually we would used to spend a lot of time on we need time to edit, we need time to fix everything, we need time to like make sure it's okay, and we would spend less time in the pre-production. This time, because of kind of circumstances beyond our control, we wanted to shoot sooner, but we had to postpone that, and then have to postpone it a little bit more again, and then we end up spending more time on the pre-production than we ever have, and less time on the post-production, which is usually the reverse that we do. And we did great. I was surprised with how much, like, we usually stress, like, oh my God, we're at the deadline, so we have to submit it. So like almost, 6 p.m. or midnight. But this time we actually managed to submit a day ahead of time. Yeah. And I know we always try to do that. We're like, okay, the deadline is, let's say the 13th. We'll try to aim for the 12th, and it never happens. Like, we just like last minute, like, oh my God. But this time we submitted a day early, and we were all like, are we done? Are we missing something? We probably missed something. There's no way we could have submitted. Did we actually submit? To go back and check? But I can't verify. Okay, but I hope I submitted. But I think on that front, I think something that made a huge difference in this was that we were really forced to spend time getting ideas locked down before we actually shoot. We like you said, we had done festivals that were 72 hours or 48 hours. So that mad rush of, well, I got to write a script and I got to write fast so that we could shoot fast, shooting often the second or the third draft, kind of resulted in the edit trying to find things that just weren't there. Yeah. Whereas in this one, it was nerve-wracking doing it. But I think we spent a good month and a half just in pre-production, which gave us the chance to go back and rewrite the script and actually sit down with the actors and do a couple of table reads so the actors could find their own voices in the script.
Yeah.
When I write, it's my voice first, but to be able to take that and change it and make it work with what the actors wanted to do, to give Ryan, the DOP, time to actually go through and do a full-on shot list, actually give us a chance to go watch the movies and kind of see what do we want to pull from those, what elements do we want to bring into this. When we got to the edit, everything was there.
Yeah.
We weren't scrambling trying to find
nothing's ever perfect.
But we weren't trying to find narrative where things weren't before. You know, in films that we shot before this, we would actually take moments where the camera was rolling and we hadn't called action to fill in the cover in other shots. Whereas in this one, it was there.
Yeah.
So really taking that time to plan out the film, we lost an actor trying to find another one and then realizing, okay, we can run you through this.
Yeah.
That would not have been possible if we were rushing to shoot like we had done before.
Yeah.
So really taking the time on this definitely did help. And I think for you and Ryan in particular, this is something that you want to do going forward. So, you know, what do you think that your future in film and in the film industry looks like?
I obviously want to keep going with this. I really enjoy this. I want to do more, to learn more. I'm still not sure what exactly, because when we're doing our productions, we kind of do everything of our production from start to finish. We don't have a specific role. We just fill in what needs to be filled in. So, and there's a lot of options, especially here in Ottawa. It's growing so much that I just want to be able to make films like this, especially, and I think it's these kind of things with like Digi and the other like film festivals happening in Ottawa that it has given me that chance that I never would have had. Like, I mean, we went to school and learned some stuff, but it hasn't introduced me to the people that I know now. It hasn't introduced, like, really setting ourselves up to, like, you know what, let's enter a film festival, let's enter Digi, and they're so helpful, like, in every aspect. Same thing, and it's introduced me to the filming community that I thought would never be accessible to me. It was something that I was like, I would love to be able to do that, but that's all the way over there, and how do I get there type thing? Like, how do I manage to meet these people? How do I manage to, introduce myself? And with Digi, they do all that stuff. They do events, they do, like with the festivals, and they do like media launches and all that stuff. And it allows you to discover more in this film industry. And honestly, I think that's how I got me started into it. So now I am being able to work on bigger productions, on feature films, and acting a little bit more. And it's made me really fall in love with this. Like, I'm enjoying just being able to do like the short films for these festivals. Like, wow, this is so much fun. I love this. I want to do this as a career. I want to do this for the rest of my life. I think that this has really kind of opened the doors for a lot. And I'm still very curious and wanting to learn about other stuff that's out there, just because, I mean, from our smaller productions to the larger productions they're very similar, but they're also very different. So I'm not sure what I want to do yet but I know that I want it to be in film.
From your first Digi to your most recent Digi, do you find that you've grown, and in what aspect have you grown? Like, do you look back at your first Digi and be like, oh, what did I do?
When we shot our very first Digi film, we looked into, we Googled what roles were on a film set.
Yeah.
And, in our mind, we knew that there was this role of an assistant director, and there was a role of a director, and what does a producer do? I still don't know what a producer does, even though apparently I am one now. But, in that very first film, we had this really formal idea of, we're going to do a film, this is how it's going to be done. And we got to, get in with audio and all of these like very, very mechanical notions of what filmmaking was.
Yeah.
And I think the more we've grown, the more we started to realize that, you don't have to have an executive producer on every single film just because the credit says there is one. And how we can, as a directing team, as co-directors, kind of share that responsibility between the two of us. And bringing other people into this when we need them, not just because we think they have to be there. So if we look at that first film, I was really happy with how that first film turned out. I look at it now and think there's so many things I would have done differently. And I wish we hadn't decided to shoot outdoors at the end of October, because that was rough. But, the things that we've learned and the things that we've been able to carry forward from film to film to film, and even looking back on going to see that one in theaters and thinking, I made a film, putting together my filmmaker biography, and that film is in there, is just, what have I done? What is my life now? So I think kind of in going through this, going from this idea of what we think filmmaking should be, just giving ourselves the freedom to tell stories and picking up the pieces as we really need them.
Especially going from the first film that we've done to the last film that we've done. I think we just grow so much. And again, practice makes perfect, right? I mean, we're not near anywhere perfect, but I feel like just looking from that first production, that first film, and then at the time you think, well, wow, we really did good because we've surpassed what we thought was our abilities to do this. And then, but we're still feeling that way. Like the one that we just finished making, I still felt like that. Like, wow, we really surpassed our ability of what we thought we could do. And I think that's going to keep going on and on and on. Like every time, not saying that our first one was bad, but it was, you see the progression. You see that, oh, now they've added this on. Oh, now lighting's kind of different. Oh, now there's more like, you can tell the progression of our learning curve of really. And even if it's a simple stuff like the storytelling, knowing about more of the visual cues and not necessarily the script per se, or the learning about, having insert scenes where we didn't have that at all at the beginning. It was just film the script and that's all. But now going back, looking like when we had bar scenes, like you set the location and the story and which again, we were just like, let's make a movie. Yeah. But now we're actually thinking of the process of like, let's insert a thing here. Let's do this here. Let's add a little bit of this. Let's change the lighting. And again, we did a neo-noir this time where it's something like when you first start off in the first movie, it was like, okay, where does the light go? Where would it work? It's just, just seeing that progression of, sometimes we still do that. But I mean, just seeing the progression of from that to this is fun to see.
Well, I think a big thing we've learned too is, where do we allow ourselves to take risks? Mm-hmm. We've done some films that involved a lot of risk. And your first director for Digi involved a lot of green screen in a car, and we didn't know what we were doing. And most of our film depended on the green screen working, and it didn't. It didn't. So there was a lot of late night panic trying to clean that up, and sort of knowing, what can we take a risk on? What can we allow ourselves to experiment with, and versus what strengths that we've built do we fall back on to really make things work.
Yeah, and I think that's something that if somebody is looking to start making films or enter a film festival, do at least one of those things per film that you do. Yeah. So if you're like the green screen scared the heck out of us, and it went wrong, completely wrong, and but looking back, and that film still
won Spirit of the Festival.
We won Spirit of the Festival with Digi, and I remember telling you, I was like, I don't know if I want to submit this. I don't know, like something went wrong with the quality of our, like the actual quality of the video. And we couldn't figure out what it was. And we're just like, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, I can't submit this as being the director, as being this, and it's like we even, the green screen, one, we lit completely wrong. And then, but two, when we edited, we had
shots going backwards.
So we're in the car driving, and you see that it's reversing. And I don't know if everybody picks up on that, but we're looking at that going, oh my God.
Well, yeah, because you're watching frame by frame by frame in the edit, thinking, oh man.
But you know what?
But I mean, clearly,
we're never going to do that again.
Yeah, we never do that again.
So we've learned that.
Clearly somebody liked it because they gave us Spirit of the Festival for it, or they've just pitied us. But yeah, I think, we learned that, what risks we can take and what works. And I think that the fact that we've taken a lot of chances has really paid off. Yeah. And I think Digi's a great place for that because the film is going to be screened. Yeah. So you can take chances and see how it looks on a big screen, and I think it's really a great opportunity.
And what's amazing is that you have feedback from the judges.
Yes.
Like you get to learn from that.
In our very first film, I was kind of afraid to ask for judges' feedback because I didn't know what filmmaking is.
I really want to know if it was that bad.
Lately, it's something that honestly is probably the most valuable part of the experience.
Oh my God, yes.
We make films and we look at them thinking, we're good, or man, why would I do this? Yeah. And then you show it to friends and family, and of course they're going to be supportive. Yeah. It's great. You're Steven Spielberg.
And you do need that.
You do need that. But getting an opportunity to get some feedback from industry professionals, people who not only have watched your film, but taken the time to really analyze and look for areas to improve has been hugely, hugely rewarding. Mm-hmm. It's a scary email to open sometimes, but it's a totally invaluable thing.
And that helps you grow too, because if the judges say, well, I didn't really understand this, and to us it was super clear, we have to go back, okay, why, as an audience member, did they not understand what we were trying to show, and how do we fix that for next time?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that, every aspect can be understood by as many people as possible? And I think as much as it's nice to get the good feedback going, oh, it was great, and we really like it, I also enjoy getting I didn't really understand this, and I didn't see why you guys did this, and then it allows us to think back, why did we really do that? Did we need to do that? Could we have done something differently?
Yeah.
And that's where we see the progression from that first one to the latest one we've done, that a lot of it is because of that feedback that we're getting, and not just the encouragement of friends and family going, oh my God, that's great. That's okay, but how can I make it better? And the feedback is fantastic with that.
Absolutely.